A teenager born in 2008 is sitting in his bedroom. On his screen is an old home video from the 1980s. Kids riding bikes until the streetlights come on. A family barbecue, an old station wagon parked in the driveway. A dad filming his children with a camcorder. Someone blows out birthday candles while everybody laughs. The colors are faded, the footage is grainy, and suddenly he feels sad. Not because he remembers it, because he does not. He was not even alive. Those were not his summers. That was not his family. That was not his life. So why does it feel like he lost something? Maybe you've felt this too. Maybe you've watched an old baseball game from decades ago and wished you were there. Maybe you've seen photos of New York in the 1950s and thought, I belong there. Maybe you've looked at old pictures of small-town America and somehow missed a childhood you never had. It is a strange feeling. How can we become nostalgic for memories that are not ours? Keep that place in your mind, because by the end of this video, you may realize you are not missing the past at all. You are missing something much deeper. This feeling is everywhere. People born in the 2000s miss the 1980s. People dream about living in old New York. Others feel strangely attached to old diners, drive in theaters, and family road trips they never took. Some people become emotional watching old sitcoms. Others wish they had grown up in neighborhoods where everybody knew each other and children played outside until dark. Why? Because somehow these things don't feel like history, they feel personal. You look at an old photograph and think, I wish I had this. Not the photograph itself, the feeling, the atmosphere, the life it seems to represent. And the strange thing is the emotion is real. You genuinely miss it. You genuinely long for it. Even though it never belonged to you, it is almost like becoming homesick for a place you've never visited. And that doesn't make any sense, unless we're not actually missing the place. Think about the things people often become nostalgic for: the 1980s, small-town America, old Christmas movies, rainy bookstores, Route 66, family dinners, summer evenings. These things all have something in common. They seem to carry a feeling: connection, warmth, freedom, belonging. The mind is incredibly good at taking tiny pieces of information and building entire worlds. A movie, a photograph, an old song, a story your grandparents told you. Little by little, your mind creates an emotional picture, and eventually that picture begins to feel real, real enough to miss, real enough to long for. But here is something even stranger. Why do millions of people become nostalgic for the exact same things? Why do so many people miss old diners, old neighborhoods, old summers, old family traditions? Maybe because those things represent something many of us quietly want. Something deeper. Maybe you don't actually miss the 1980s. Maybe you miss simplicity. Maybe you don't miss small-town America. Maybe you miss community. Maybe you don't miss old photographs. Maybe you miss belonging. Think about it. When people say, I wish I lived back then, they're often saying, I wish life felt different. Slower, warmer, less complicated, more connected. The old diner becomes a symbol. The small town becomes a symbol. The family barbecue becomes a symbol. And suddenly, something you've never experienced begins to feel like a memory. Not because it happened, but because it represents something you are searching for right now. That is why this feeling can be so powerful, because it isn't really about the past. It is about the present. There is another strange part to all of this. When we imagine another time or another life, we imagine the best parts, the laughter, the friendships, the summer evenings. The Christmas mornings, we don't imagine the problems, the loneliness, the arguments, the difficult moments. We create a perfect version of a life that never existed, and then we miss it. But maybe that is not foolish. Maybe it is human, because sometimes we're not nostalgic for the past, we're nostalgic for possibilities. The city we never moved to, the road we never took, the version of ourselves we never became, the childhood we wish we had, the life we imagine would have made us happier. And that is a powerful thought, because suddenly this feeling isn't about old photographs anymore. It is about hope, it is about longing, It is about wondering whether another version of life might have felt more like home. Here is the twist. What if nostalgia for things we've never had isn't really about the past? What if it is a message? Think about the things you feel nostalgic for. A quiet cabin, a small town, old summers, family dinners, a life that seems simpler. Why those things? Why not something else? Maybe because they reveal something important. Maybe the things we miss are actually clues. Tiny messages from ourselves, little reminders of what we value. Maybe you long for connection, maybe you long for peace, maybe you long for community, maybe you long for meaning. The places we miss may not be destinations. They may be directions. They are pointing toward the kind of life we're trying to build. And suddenly, this strange feeling starts making sense. Because maybe you are not homesick for another era. Maybe you are homesick for a feeling you haven't fully found yet. Remember the teenager from the beginning, the one watching old home videos from the 1980s. Maybe he was not sad because he missed another decade. Maybe he was sad because those videos represented something he wanted. Connection, belonging, family, a slower and simpler life. Maybe that is why old songs make us emotional, why old movies feel comforting, why places we've never visited can somehow feel like home. Because sometimes the things we miss the most were never really places. They were feelings. And perhaps that is one of the strangest things about being human. We can become nostalgic for things we've never had, because they remind us of something our hearts are still searching for. Maybe we don't become homesick for places we've never been. Maybe we become homesick for possibilities we haven't found yet. And maybe that is not sadness at all. Maybe it is simply our minds quietly telling us what matters most. What is something you've always felt nostalgic for, even though you've never experienced it? An era, a place, a life? Maybe it is the America of the 1980s. Maybe it is an old neighborhood where everyone knew each other. Maybe it is New York decades ago. A small cabin in the woods. Or family dinners you've only seen in old photographs and movies. Whatever it is, I did genuinely love to hear your answer. Because sometimes the things we miss the most aren't really places at all. They are feelings. A sense of belonging, a slower life, a deeper connection. And maybe the thing you've always felt nostalgic for is quietly telling you something about yourself. So tell me, what is something you've always felt nostalgic for, even though you've never experienced it? And when you really think about it, what do you think you are actually missing?